Today's reading is once again from the Science of Mind magazine, The Daily Guides by Rev Dr David Alexender. Let me see. Here we go. This is kind of more of a Buddhist teaching than it is Science of Mind or any other for that matter. Anyway, that's my take on it. Never let a crisis go to waste. Zen proverb, the obstacle is the path. The obstacle is the path. I was going to explain that as I see it, and then I see lower down, it is explained. So let's avoid the redundancy and carry on. Ernest Holmes in Thoughts Are Things, page 91, says, a limitless creativity exists and expresses through all that is. It always seeks a fuller channel of expression through you. Recognize that it exists and accept its action in your life. So, a limitless creativity exists and expresses through all that is. It is always seeking a fuller channel of expression through you. Recognize that it exists and accept its actions in your life. As I said, that was from Thoughts Are Things. It was actually on page 91. So here we go. Tibetan Buddhists revere Lojong teachings as a direct path through adversity. At their core is the radical notion that anything perceived as an obstacle is not to be avoided, but embraced. It echoes the phrase, never let a crisis go to waste. Your unique brand of adversity is not a detour, but a sacred ground that is ripe for opportunity. And he tells us where this comes from. Mashid Labrun, an 11th century Tibetan mystic and teacher, distilled Lojong into 5 core teachings. 1. Approach what you find repulsive. I turn to what I avoid, whether a person, a memory, or a truth, and I simply breathe with it. I hold judgment lightly and loosely, and I ask, what if this is not my enemy, but a growth prompt? 2. Help those you think you cannot help. Rather than harden around us versus them, I extend compassion to those I've judged as beyond help. Sometimes that person is me. 3. Anything you are attached to, give that. The thing I long for most, I humbly help another find. Letting go can be a love letter to life. Go to the places that scare you. Start small. I show up for things I think I cannot do. This is about mastery. It is about the willingness to be bigger than the resistance. 5. Don't act with an agenda. I show up with no angle and no performance, just present. And then Reverend David says, these are not moral judgments, they're freedom tools. You don't have to get it right, you just have to show up. Well, some of this stuff, hang on a second. You know, I'm not a Buddhist. I grew up Christian, and I express that through Science of Mind. I know that there are lots of people who are Jewish and express it through Science of Mind, Muslim, and Buddhist, Hindu, etc. And one of the core teachings in Buddhism is, and this is what the Buddha went out to seek, right? What's the cause of suffering? And he came to the conclusion the cause of suffering was attachment, which kind of, if you like, flows in with some of these things, especially anything you're attached to, give that. But it's often been misinterpreted as the cause of suffering is desire. But it's not the desire that's the issue, it's the attachment. But, when I look at this from my perspective, I see there are some things that I am attached to that, A, I'm not willing to give up, and B, I think it's good that I'm attached to them. But also I acknowledge the fact that when I lose them, it's going to be painful. But I'm still attached to them, and I still want to be attached to them, because I'm not on that path that says I have to give everything away that I've got, and that I've got to release attachment and everything. For instance, my spouse, our pets, our family. I'm attached to these things, and I think it's good that I'm attached to them. I think that's part of human life. I think that's what makes human life good. Why? Because I believe that beyond that life carries on, and that I'll see him again sometime. I just taught a class on EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, at our local community college. I had 12 people there, which I think like 25 signed up, but that's pretty typical for this time of the year. Half of them showed up, which I was pleased with. And somehow it got into a discussion. One of the ladies, was suffering because she had to watch her dog die. And then while it was dying, she dug a grave for it, so that when it finally passed, she could actually bury it. So then we got into a discussion about these things like attachments. And then we got into a discussion about, is there such a thing as a rainbow bridge? And the conclusion of the group was that animals have souls just like human beings. So to me, I look at attachment in a different way than the Buddhist does. And I accept the fact that I enjoy these things. And at some time, I'll lose them. And I accept that fact. So I sometimes think that this is all part of human life, But having said that, he comes back, Reverend David, at the end of it with his affirmation, which to me is not entirely connected to what the message has been trying to say. Everything and every one of my teachers, hey, I 100% agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with the fact that we forgive people, that showing up without an agenda is a good thing. I don't have anything to prove. I think that's fantastic. Go to places that scare you. Start small. I think that's good. But he says start small, or the Buddhist teaching says start small. Help those you think you cannot help. Fine, Approach what you find repulsive. I don't have a basic disagreement with any of that, As I said, I'm just giving my own interpretation of all this. And my interpretation is that we're here to enjoy life. And at the same time, we're here to help other people enjoy life. And I agree, we're not here to pass judgment, because who knows what defines beauty, for instance. Something someone finds beautiful, I might not like. And I'll give you an example. We were in a museum in London, and I was on a business trip. There was this piece of modern art, and all it was two painted lines. It was supposed to be Adam and Eve, apparently, but they were just two painted lines. There was nothing phenomenally artistic about it. I could not see the beauty in that. But my colleague who was traveling, we were traveling from here to Saudi Arabia, but spending a bit of time in London as well. And I couldn't see it. I just didn't get it. I did not get the beauty in this painting, but he did, apparently. So we all see life through a different lens. And I think that a way to look at life is non-judgment. Discernment, yes. You can discern many things. But judgment, no. Am I entirely free of non-judgment? I wish to heck I was, but I'm not. So I think my own personal lesson from this is non-judgment, non-judgment, and everything and everyone in my teachers. I agree. When I teach a class, if somebody can teach me something, I am overjoyed. I think it's wonderful. I've learned something and I can use that in the future. So that's my 10 cents for today. But bringing us back to a spiritual level and knowing that God is all there is. In fact, as Holmes says here, a limitless creativity exists through all that is. And that limitless creativity, I call God. And I say the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Everywhere we are, God is, and all is well. So until next time, from me, namaste. From my colleague, Reverend Lisa, tomorrow morning, it will be hello, 9:15, Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. So until next time, truly, truly, namaste.